Good morning, hopefully, or afternoon, sorry now. Hopefully we're still got lots of attendees listening in, trying to listen in. I do apologise for these technical issues we're having. There's something going on with the system that once we reach maximum capacity, it does throw us out of the system. So I do apologise for that. We're going to try again now, and we'll see how we go. As I said, we're going to take about 45 minutes to complete this, and we'll go through. So our objectives today. We're going to look at what safety management means in the camo environment. Four key areas really we're going to be having a look at. We're going to look at the recent regulatory changes, the part camo, the recent EASA ruling that came out. We'll have a very, very brief look at what safety management is. What does it mean to us? We're sure we've all heard of those terms over the years, but we're going to look at what it really means to us with a more detailed understanding of the environment today. That safety management concept brings new terminology, most notably the term management system. So we'll bring that along and we'll have a little discuss around that, what that means to us. And then at the end, we'll have some thought sharing and discuss the actual challenges within the camo environment, what the management system means, what the latest thinking in the EASA regulatory terms mean. So before we do get going, it'd be really good if we could get your views on the world. Okay, there's a message saying you can't see the slides, so let me just try and get that sorted for you. Just bear with me a second. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Is that okay? I'll rely on Emma. Yes, okay, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. So good timing to see my screen, because now I'm going to show you a poll. There's a question for you. Really interested in your views. You should see a poll come up on your screen any minute now. Just have a look and answer this question and tick one of the boxes. How ready are you for the implementation of part camo? And then go through one of those 5 questions if you can. So there's a screen now. You should be able to click on one of those answers and we'll have a look to see what that tells us. Okay, we're nearly there. Thanks for your prompt voting. That's really good. We got nearly all the participants there. 84% of the people have voted so far. And what we're seeing about 86 people either believe they're not really ready or partly ready. So that's a good indication really of what we're seeing in industry. We've got a small percentage saying they are ready. They've been planning for a while. So that's really good. That's fantastic. And not too many people saying not ready at all or really haven't thought about it. So that's quite a nice balanced view of the industry and what we're seeing. So hopefully you can see those on the screen as well now. You see mostly people are saying they're partly ready, which is good indication. And then just a small percentage at the lower end. Okay, fantastic. So hopefully by the end of the next half an hour, 45 minutes or so, you'll might have another think about that. And we're going to ask that same question at the end of this module just to see whether your views change. So what are the recent changes to the continuing airworthiness regulation? Well, those of us that are in the continuing airworthiness world are probably quite familiar with the ones that affect us on a daily basis today. So we can see the basic regulation there, then some other areas, Part 21, Part 26, but mainly our Part M, Part 145, 66, 147, and the T. That's what we're familiar with today. So what's changing there? Well, under the continuing airworthiness regulation on the right, we're adding 3 new annexes. Annex 5B, which will be Part ML, Annex 5C, Part Camo, which we've all heard about, then Annex 5D, Part CAO. What are they then? What are the changes? Well, fundamentally, what we're doing, we're taking parts out of Part M as it is today, the full scope of Part M, and we're trying to make it more manageable, trying to make it more user-friendly. So camos today are approved to Part M Subpart G. So anything MA7 is the organizational requirements for a camo. And what we're trying to do there is make that a standalone approval. So Annex 5C Part Camo has been introduced to take those elements out of the pure Part M environment. One thing that does while we do that, it does introduce the term safety management. It introduces that concept as we've had in the Air Ops requirements for quite some time now. Essentially though, it's a read across from the Part M Subpart G requirements with the introduction of safety management. Structurally, it will be very different. It'll align more to the Part ORO regulations. So numerically, things will change, but the fundamental intent is pretty similar with the addition of the safety management requirements. Part ML. As you know, Part M covers everything that flies today for whatever reason, whether it be the smallest private aviation aircraft up to the big complex motor-powered aircraft of the international carriers today. So Part ML will take the GA type requirements out of Part M, so it will separate complex motor-powered aircraft and those used for commercial air transport from the GA type environment. So Part ML will be a new section, and it'll just be the responsibilities, the requirements for the complex motor-powered aircraft not listed on an air operator certificate. Essentially, Part M Light. Part CAO, in the same way we're taking Part Camo out of Part M through extracting Part M Subpart G, Part CAO is a new approval, and effectively it's what's known as a combined airworthiness organization. So what this is an extension, if you like, of the Part M Subpart F maintenance organization, a maintenance organization that can maintain non-complex motor-powered aircraft, non-commercial, but it also allows them now to manage maintenance programs, the minimum inspection program, and also perform airworthiness reviews. So what we're looking at is when a smaller aircraft will have an annual check, they'll be able to do the full annual review, revise the maintenance program for its annual review, and also perform the airworthiness review to give the ARC another 12 months to run. So they're fundamentally the changes that are coming in, but the big one we're really interested in is this safety management. So what actually is safety management? What does it mean to you? Safety is a condition. It's not something tangible. It's not something we can touch. It's an output, if you like, of many, many different types of activities and behaviors. How do we determine whether we are safe? Well, that's a great question, and it's one that will always be asked and one that will come up with many, many different answers throughout time. But ICAO helps us. ICAO 9859 does provide us with a definition of safety, as you can see on your screens there. It's the state in which risks associated with all aviation activities related to or in direct support of the operation of the aircraft are reduced and controlled to an acceptable level. Many people might ask what an acceptable level is, and it's a very good question. It's in relation to you as an organization. People talk about appetite for risk. Well, it's a good term, but it implies that we're willing to take risk. Whereas in aviation, we have to take risk. It's a risk environment, but we must minimize that risk, and we must then control that risk to an acceptable level continually. So it's an ongoing process. It's not something we can do on a Monday, make ourselves happy we've done it, and then move on. It's an ongoing process, this management of risk, which leads to a safe operation. So why are we adding it to the regulations then? Aren't we safe already, some people say? Well, we are actually. We're incredibly safe, and we're very proud in our industry of reporting the annual statistics. And we can see from the chart here that over the last, since we started flying, really, the trends have been coming down. Over the last 10, 15 years, they've really accelerated down to a really low level. 2017, I'm sure you'll all remember, was the safest year in our history. When we talk about safe, we're talking about how many fatalities or how many fatal accidents. It's not a perfect indicator, but it does indicate a level anyway. 2018 was a little bit higher than 2017. There was a few unfortunate events which have moved the figures, but generally we're on a very, very good trajectory to get to really safe organizations. So you may ask, well, what do we do differently then? Surely we're doing things well. But I would argue until we don't have any accidents, then we need to continually improve. So we need to keep that trend going downwards, and we need to keep on top of things and make sure we do keep safety at the forefront of all our thinking. Just as an example, there was an incident nearly 2 years ago now where an aircraft rejected takeoff. Very high speed rejection. In fact, the nose gear had lifted off the ground already. And the reason for this rejected takeoff was a cargo shift. So, okay, not camo related directly, but it's just an example of how we got very, very close to a statistic. This aircraft, this event isn't included in the safety statistics at all here because we didn't crash, because we didn't kill anybody. But we were very, very close. We were probably seconds away from being another statistic. And really what safety management is about is making sure that we don't leave it to the last minute to avoid accidents. We work upstream, we work in the core activities to prevent those events combining to end and result in an accident. I can see Emma typing away merrily next to me, so it looks like there's lots of questions coming in, lots of feedback. So keep the questions coming in, keep comments coming in, and we'll get round to them all eventually. Time for another poll. So here's another question for you. How do you know you're safe today? Or how do you know your organization is safe today? So there should be a poll coming up on the screen any second now. And the same as before, put your answers in and we'll see what the answers tell us. For those that don't know, I get a live view of this as your voting comes in. 3/4 have voted so far, and it's looking very positive. There's some very honest people out there, which I appreciate. We've got a very small percentage saying, actually, I don't know. And that's fantastic. As long as we know what we don't know, then we can move on and we can be safe. Poll's about to close. We're nearly there. Yep, so now we're going to share those results and see what they look like. Okay, so as you can see from the screen there, 59% say that their data tells them they're safe. That's fantastic. So we can explore that data later on, see how that data comes out and see what actually the data is. The vast majority of others rely on other people telling them, or you're actually relying on the fact that you don't have any accidents or incidents. That's an interesting one, but very, very positive there with 60% almost people relying on data to see whether they're safe or not. That's very encouraging. Just giving some ideas now how we achieve safety today, and this is across the board. This isn't just in camos. This is across all areas of aviation that we deal with. Safety today is largely compliance driven. We can't argue with that. Compliance is at the heart of safety, and compliance must be our first thought before we even consider how safe we are. We must get the compliance driven environment first. Safety currently, people a lot of time people are trying to meet regulators' expectations rather than look at what we're trying to do as industry and organizations. What are we trying to achieve and how can we achieve that safely? We've always got one eye, it appears, on the regulator, understanding what their expectation is of what safety is as opposed to ours. We react to safety issues. I'm sure we'll all agree we're quite a rearward looking industry. We learn from our incidents and accidents. So we react to safety issues when they occur, and admittedly they rarely occur, but we still react to them. What safety management is about is trying to get us looking forward, what might cause an accident as opposed to what has caused an accident. Lots of efforts are put into control repeat failures. We harvest data rather than use the data, and we do a lot of auditing and risk assessments, and hopefully that does prove effective in many ways. Often some of our solutions are ineffective, which leads to repeat failures. So we need to make sure that if we are doing the risk assessments, the investigations, we do actually get to the probable cause. This is an interesting one as well. We hear this a lot, reminding people to be careful or think safety. That's great just to keep people's views up there, but actually it's what we do on a daily basis, how we behave, how organizations act to be safe, as opposed to just reminding people to be safe. I've got a question here. I'm just going to mute myself while I read it for a few seconds and I'll come back to you. So I've got a question from Simon here, talking about the 737 MAX event, which is a hot topic at the moment. He's saying it's the first symptom of broader issues within the regulations and organizational management. And what he's saying there is compliance does not equal safety. You're absolutely right, Simon. Compliance and safety are not equal. Compliance will lead to safety. Safety is the larger, bigger goal. That's the utopia. Compliance is one of the building blocks to enable us to get to that safe outcome. So thanks for that, Simon. Appreciate it. You're absolutely right. Compliance, being compliant, is not necessarily leading to as safe as you would like to be. Some comments we see around, and I'm sure if you talk to people in the industry, you go to conferences, you talk to peers, some of the comments we receive, it's what we call the safety stereotypes. And no one will argue. We talk to any organization, safety is our #1 priority. That's what all the management will tell us. We have a good safety record. We haven't had an accident in years. And that's 16% of you on the last survey said we have no or have few accidents. Quality tell me we are safe. Who's heard that one? Is it really quality's responsibility to tell an organization that they're safe, or is it really up to the organization? We'll discuss a little bit about that later as well. We pass our audits. Now that's great. Passing audits is fantastic. Means the regulator believes through their sample of your organization that you meet the requirements. However, sampling is not good enough to actually demonstrate that we are safe. Another view, it would never happen to us, head in the sand scenario. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't, unless you've got really good data to demonstrate you are safe and that all your activities are doing in the safest way possible. Or what we're hearing a lot more of recently, the safety department looks after safety. Interesting. What we actually really should be thinking is everybody in every role looks after safety. The safety department is there to monitor how well people in the active roles are managing safety. It sounds easy, doesn't it? But as we all know, it's absolutely not safe, not that easy, because we have to balance things. There's a business to run. We have to make sure we have a financial management system in place to make profits so we can reinvest into the business so that we can become safer. We must do things in a way that produce a safe outcome, but we must do that obviously economically to produce the right balance of financial expenditure, quality, and the safety side of things. So that slide there, all I'm showing really there is there's a space we have to navigate through. We need to make sure that the people in charge of compliance, the people in charge of delivery of the product are in charge of safety and they're delivering the product in a safe way. It's a team effort. So to enable staff to do that safely, we need the right culture in the business. We need to make sure that all the relevant cultures are available in the business. We talk about just culture a lot these days, especially in the maintenance environment, but actually we need to have a proactive culture. Have we got a learning culture? Have we got an atmosphere of trust in the organization, first of all? If we haven't got the atmosphere of trust, then how are we going to encourage people to provide the safety related information? If we've got the trust culture, then we need the reporting culture. People must be comfortable in reporting. They must feel that their reports are going to lead to something. Have we got the right questioning culture, flexible culture? Are we adaptable? Are we flexible? And are we able to look at the actual report as opposed to the person who raised it and react to the events rather than the people? If we can get those things in place, then absolutely we're on a very good sound footing to lead towards a good safety culture. So a safety management system, one that contains the features necessary to obtain the desired level of safety. So the features being compliant with procedures, right competence, the right cultures, all those types of attributes are important to ensure that we have a safe outcome. Safety performance, how well are we performing our outputs to ensure that we are as safe as we deem possible? A LARP, are we as low as practicable? If we understand our level of performance, we can make then good, sound, risk-based decisions on the items that fall outside the compliance framework. All this has to be underpinned by this positive safety culture. I've got a question here from Martin. So again, if you just allow me to pause for a few seconds while I read it, and I'll come back to you. Fantastic question, Martin. So would I agree that nominated persons do not fully adopt their responsibilities for compliance within their area of responsibility, as they often rely on the safety or compliance manager to manage safety? Absolutely right. What we do see is often the middle managers, as I maybe refer to them now, the nominated persons, they have this challenge. It's known as the management venturi, where they're driven by the senior management to own and drive compliance. And they're told, yes, go away and do this, go away and make things safer, go away and improve the business. And then from underneath, they're challenged with the day-to-day running of the business, and they get other challenges from the staff below them asking for other things that may compete. So they get these competing demands. They're stuck in the middle often, and as much as they would probably desire to take on their responsibilities, sometimes they're not enabled to take on their responsibilities through the distribution of work, through the delegation of work, and the appropriate delegation of ownership for the tasks through the business. So really good question, Martin. Yes, I think we do see that in some organizations where the nominated persons aren't able to fully fulfill their responsibilities with the compliance or safety. So what have we got in our system today to actually manage safety? Well, I hinted about this earlier. We've got regulations. Absolutely, compliance is key. Compliance is the foundation of managing safety. Independent assurance, it's been with us for many, many years. There's nothing changed there. Independently assuring that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. Human factors, it's been with us now for more than 20 years, quarter of a decade even. How are we managing the human in the system? How do the humans interact with our systems, with our machines, with our processes? Reporting, have we got those cultures we spoke about? Managing competence. This is very, very recent in our regulatory changes. Last 3 or 4 years, EASA has put a lot more emphasis into how we manage competence, how we establish competence, and then the culture, obviously. So we can see an evolution. We started off with pure compliance. We brought in the quality assurance aspects. We're managing the human to do this. We recognize humans are the main contributor to being unsafe in our environment. The safety management piece is bringing all that together. It's not something different. It's not something else we have to do. It's more, how do we do the stuff that we're already supposed to be doing, and how well are we doing it? So the language that's coming in, new terminology. We talk about the management system. This is what's coming into Part Camo. It's bringing in the management system. So what is it? So what's driving the requirements? Back in 2014, there was a regulation 376 that came out, similar level to the basic regulation. And you can see there some elements that I've highlighted from that. We talk about spontaneous reporting of occurrences, thereby advancing the principle of a just culture. So this is at the highest level of regulation in aviation law in Europe. Just culture is an essential element of a broader safety culture. So it's recognizing there the culture is an element of a safety culture. It's not the be all and end all. And it forms the basis of a robust safety management system. So this reporting, this hazard identification and risk management is what we're all about. So how is this then replicated in the regulations that we've got? Well, Part Camo, here's an extract from the new Part Camo, Camo A200. For those of you that are operators, you'll recognize this. It comes straight out of ORO Gen 200. It says the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain a management system. So what is the management system? Basically, what we're talking about is what we all know today as the quality system. So instead of having the quality system that oversees the organization and makes sure we have a quality output, the management system is the way that we manage our day-to-day activities. To have a really effective management system, we must have clearly defined lines of responsibility. And that goes back to Martin's question he was just raising earlier. Clearly defined lines of responsibility and accountability, including now a direct safety accountability. This is the new element coming into the regulation. The safety accountability, this is the next section I've just highlighted there, is the identification of safety hazards. So we've got to be very clear here. These are aviation safety hazards, one that could affect aviation, the ultimate outcome of the aircraft safely flying. Yes, we have a health and safety element to all our businesses, wherever we are in the world, and there's elements in there, slips, trips, and falls. That's absolutely fantastic. But what we're actually talking about here is the aviation safety hazards. That forms part of the safety management system within our compliant organization. The evaluation and management of those risks, including taking actions to mitigate the risks, and then finally verify that those actions we've taken have been effective. Got a couple more questions here, if you don't mind. I'll just come back to you in a second. So I've got a question here from Declan. Can you elaborate on SMS requirement for non-airline camo that is mainly involved in short-term aircraft transition? Yes, Declan, that's a very good question. Now, it's only those organizations that are required to manage the airworthiness for complex motor-powered aircraft used by licensed air carriers in commercial air transport are the ones that are going to have to implement a safety management system. If you're not into that category, then pretty much you carry on as you are today. So good question, thank you. Another question from Savi, can I share examples of SPIs in the maintenance environment? That's slightly off topic, Savi, but if you email us after the webinar, I'm sure we can get you in touch with somebody that would actually be able to resolve that for you. And I've got another one from Andrew here. Is product reliability on your spectrum? Are you covering that under quality? Trying to understand what you mean by product reliability there. If it is what I understand, the product, the overall reliability of an aircraft, reliability management falls under the camo system. So yes, that would come under the safety management system. Or are we talking about the product reliability from the Part 21 world? Then that's to come. Part 21 is getting SMS at a later date. If you want to clarify that a bit more, Andrew, Emma will track that, and hopefully we can provide a clearer answer for you. So what does that actually mean then, going back to the safety management and the management system? Well, I'm sure if you go back to the must establish, implement, and maintain, it's pretty much this. I'm sure you've all heard of the Deming cycle or the Deming circle, the plan, do, check, act cycle. That's pretty much what it is. It's nothing new. We've been here before. It's what we should all be doing anyway, but it's making sure we've got the elements in place, doing those elements, reviewing what we've done, and then acting on any information we've got. To enable us to do that, and the next part of the new regulation is CAMO A305. It talks about the accountable managers. So we're into what used to be MA 706, which is the management responsibilities or the personnel responsibilities. So we talk about here, they're pretty much the same as they were in MA 706, but we do have the addition of the maintenance of effective safety management processes as part of the management system. So again, it's just iterating that we must have safety management as a separate thought process in the organization, even if it's not a separate function within the organization. So if we are required to manage safety, how do we understand whether we're improving? Well, continuous improvement means we're getting better. So we need to understand where we are at the present. We need to then obviously build, we need to power up, we need to change the way we're operating, make sure things are suitable, and make sure our outputs are effective. And if we are doing that continuous improvement, the Deming cycle, then we will get to a point where we're actually performing and we will get the risks down to a LARP. So time for another poll. How do you currently measure the effectiveness of your safety management system? Our previous poll asked you, how do you know you're safe? So now we know how do you know you're effective? So the numbers are coming in. Thanks for taking part in these votes. It's really meaningful. Nearly there. 3/4 of the people have voted now. Quite interesting. Nearly half of you are using your own methodology at the moment. Very interestingly, a fifth of you not sure what you do. Very honest, appreciate that. 14% are using the EASA PSOE, 12% using the EASA MSAT. It's good. So a quarter of people using material that's already provided by EASA, and half using other methodology. So we're going to be closing that poll very, very shortly. Okay, we're now closed. We'll share those results with you. So as you can see, not much change from my running commentary there. So half of us using our own methodology. That's interesting. And 25%, a quarter, using the PSOE scale, which is within the EASA MSAT technology information. So very interesting there, because my next slide is about the EASA management measures. For those that aren't aware, not sure how you do it or using another methodology, the EASA MSAT is a tool that they've published and updated within the last couple of years. And it gives us a scale, gives us the present suitable operating effective scale, which does loosely relate to the establish, implement and maintain wording, language that's used in the regulation. So present and suitable will be, we've got something established, we've got our processes, our procedures established. Operating means we're actually doing it, we're implementing the procedures, and maintain leads us across to effective, i.e. we're doing the check-in and acting piece of the Deming cycle. We are actually reviewing, and we're actually going back and improving the operating procedures. So thanks for that poll, that's really interesting, thank you. How does performance-based environment support part camo then? So as you saw on our evolution of safety, we moved from compliance, we then had the quality assurance piece added, we then looked at the humans, we're then looking at looking at safety management, and now we're moving into this new framework EASA is talking about, the performance-based environment. So what does that mean? Well, the current safety management, there's some regulations, just some cuts from the current regulation, MA 706, the organisation shall establish and control competence. Interesting language there, that was put there 3 or 4 years ago, just using establish and control. Now in the management system, we're using establish, implement and maintain, where you could argue the implement and maintain are the control piece there, so the intent's not really changed at all there. There's a reporting element already in there, MA 202. However, we've interpreted that reporting element just to be something that may happen to the aircraft itself, as opposed to something that may affect safety. So not a lot changed, because we've got good reporting cultures in camos, we've got good reporting cultures in maintenance organizations. So it's a similar concept, but with a safety eye, as opposed to an event orientated or an aircraft orientated. And then how do we actually manage safety? Well, in the camo world, through the 8 continuing airworthiness tasks. But there's nothing specific, nothing actual there written about managing safety. So the management system itself, going back to camo A200, brings that into us. The management system, establish, implement, maintain, direct safety accountability. So it's adding that in, is to make us think differently. So Andrew's replied, thank you, Andrew. Thanks for the answer. Was talking in terms of contribution of product reliability to safety performance, e.g. reliability and enabling for ETOPS. Yes, it's all correlated there, Andrew. Reliability, if you think about what we do with reliability for the products, it's the same thought process really, but just with an eye on safety overall, as opposed to the technical reliability of the aircraft. Reliability will improve safety, no doubt, no question. If we have a more reliable product, we are going to be safer. However, industry figures do tell us these days it's not necessarily the product that is the problem, it's the people. 80%, possibly more, of accidents today are caused by people, not the machines. But absolutely, reliability, the best we can get that, it's going to improve the bottom line. Remind you again, Camo A305, the accountable manager shall, there's no question there, they shall nominate people responsible for the maintenance of an effective safety management process as part of the management system. Notice it says there as part of the management system, not on the side of. It needs to be integrated. So what we see there when we talk about integration, the management system touches on all elements of what we do on a daily basis. If we just zoom out a little bit of what we do in camos, compliance monitoring, it's part of the camo environment. The responsibilities, human resources, facilities, contract, finance and budget. All these are peripheral activities with actually managing the continuing airworthiness of an aircraft. Safety management being one of those that must be fully integrated in the way we do things. If we think about the Camo A200, the management system, what are the key elements? Well, actually, you can draw it down into 7 basic areas, really. Accountability, making sure people are accountable for what they're responsible for. The safety policy, is it clear? Is it available? Do people in the organization have access to it? Do they believe in it? Do they follow it? The identification of hazards, then identifying those hazards and assessing the risk that they pose to the safe outcome of the organization. Competence, personnel competence, absolutely key to ensuring that we're safe. Having the right documentation, having documentation that does support what we're doing. The compliance monitoring piece, making sure that all we say we're going to do, we are doing, and responding to those audits, making sure we are there. And then adding in the complexity. We are making sure that all we do, we're looking at an integrated way. So back to the management system, establish, implement, maintain, measure what we do, present, suitable, operating, effective. And if we can measure ourselves on that scale, we'll have a very, very good view of how safe we are. Through the Deming cycle, the plan, do, check, act. Now what I'm going to do here, if you can just bear with me for a few more minutes before we'll open up for some questions. Just trying to paint on one page what the management system really is to an organization and what it means. So every organization itself has this desired output, profit, operational capability, safety. We all want to deliver something. And to deliver that, we have a group of managers, the accountable managers, department managers, the nominated personnel, the Form 4 holders, who then have the responsibility for delivering that outcome. Those people will develop an organization. Any organization with facilities, resources, competent people, systems, infrastructure. And it's that organization that is going to deliver the output. That output must have 3 different elements to it. It must be operational. It must have a quality output. And I'm not talking about the quality assurance piece there. I'm talking it must be good. It must deliver what it says it's going to deliver. And it must do it with safety in mind. Once we are operating a good product safely, we then gather data. We get lots of data through reports and we analyze that data. And then we have that continuous improvement. So you can see there's the Deming cycle at work in an organization all the way through there. So it's a continuous loop. Once we analyze, the continuous improvement goes back and improves the organization. It's the responsibility of their managers to ensure that happens. On the outside of that, while it's all going on, we have the quality assurance piece. So we do the auditing, we action the findings and recommendations. They feed back into the organization for that continuous improvement as well. So that's our quality assurance loop. And then safety management, where does that fit in? It fits in overall through the doing. You can see there I've deliberately separated it from the quality assurance role because I'm absolutely sure that what's going to happen in the next few months, couple of years, is that our quality assurance managers today are going to change their titles to compliance monitoring manager and safety manager. I don't have a problem with that. It's okay. Lots of organizations do that, but you must understand the distinct different responsibilities between what quality assurance is and what safety assurance, safety management is. On the other hand, I'm not saying you need to employ somebody new to be a safety manager. I'm saying those roles must be taken care of in the organization and must be carried out to their fullest extent, whoever carries them out. So in conclusion, what are we trying to say? Safety, it's a condition, it's an outcome of our behaviors. We're very safe today, but actually we can be safer. That red line you can see is not at the bottom yet. There's a long way to go. We need to improve the way we do things, and introducing Part Camo safety management into it is one of those key areas. If we can break our responsibilities down, the 7 key areas of responsibility or the requirements is the accountability, safety policy, risk, competence, documentation, compliance monitoring, and that complexity. So one last poll for you before I open up for questions. It's the same question we asked for at the start, so it'd be interesting to see how we compare now. I'm going to launch that poll for you. It should be up on your screens. Nearly there. Going to be closing it shortly. And we're closing the poll now. Thank you very much for voting. We're going to share those for you now on the screen. You see those there already? So yeah, so we got a huge percentage, 70% almost partly ready, things are in progress. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm glad that after we spent the last half an hour or so after the technical glitches running through with what we believe safety management means in a camo environment, that most of you believe you're partly ready for this. That's fantastic. 7% fully ready. Just going to see how that compares to our earlier poll when we asked you first off. Okay, that's really good. So we've got more have moved into the green box, more have moved into the partly ready. Some said you were not really ready, but now possibly believe you are partly ready. So that's really good. So that means the thinking's aligned, that we're aligned with the ARSA thinking, and we should be ready to go ahead. Obviously, you know, we're doing this for a reason today, to get the message out there to the industry. But obviously, if you feel you are partly ready and you need a little bit of help in hand over the line, then please do give our sales team a shout, and we'll see what we can do for you. Now we're just going to leave it open for questions. So I'm going to rely on my good colleague here, Emma, to try and give me some questions that I can have a read of and answer for you. Okay, good question, Paul. This is from Paul Stevens. He says, do the Part M subpart G references read across to the Part Camo world? If not, is there a cross-reference table available? Wouldn't that be lovely, Paul, if the references just went straight across and it was the same? But unfortunately, there's some bad news for you. It's a complete new numbering system. As you could see from the presentation there was Camo A200, Camo A305. That's aligning to the management system approach in Part ORO for operators. So yes, there is a numbering change just for the subpart G elements, and you're absolutely right, there is a cross-reference table in the regulation. If you want to go and have a look at regulation EU 2019-1383, that will give you all the information you need to have a look at the new regulation. That is the hard law. There's no soft law out just yet. So once the soft law is produced, you will be able to see how you can comply. All right, so I've got another question here from Martin Ring. Paul, can you expand on the difference between quality management and compliance monitoring as captured in ORO, now Part Camo? My point is to distinguish between them as activities as quality assurance audits are only one tool to be used by compliance departments or nominated personnel compliance activities. Yes, at the highest level, Martin, you know, quality assurance, the quality system is being replaced by the management system. Quality assurance is being replaced by compliance monitoring. Not a lot's changing from that aspect, but what it's talking is trying to make it clearer. to those not involved in compliance monitoring or the quality assurance, because there was a misunderstanding that the quality system is just the quality audit program, and that was a misrepresentation. So it should make it clearer that the management system is what the organization needs to achieve, whereas the compliance monitoring monitors that organization for how well they're complying against their set standards. I hope that answers your question there, Martin. Got another question coming here. Paul, many thanks for preparing and delivering this. Should I look to update my CAIM and make changes to the company organization to reflect part camo now? It's a great question, John. I don't know if you picked up on one of my last answers there. We don't actually have the soft law available yet from EASA. We're expecting that within the next month or two. So I wouldn't go updating any expositions just yet, because we don't know the actual soft law that's coming out to help us comply with the hard law that is provided already. There is a compliance time for this, although the hard law has been published. We don't actually have to move across and be compliant with part camo until February 2021. So you have the choice as an organization to work with your competent authority to determine when you will be audited against new requirements. And once you clear the findings, if there are any, from that audit against part camo, then they will transition you across to a part camo approved organization. Hope that answers your question there, John. So basically, I wouldn't change anything just yet. When might we see AMC and GM for subpart camo? Great question, John. We're hoping in the next couple of months. EASA are busy working away. I believe it's almost finalized. They're just looking at the last crossing T's and dotting I's and getting it approved through their system. So we're almost there, I believe. Out of interest with that, Baines Simmons does provide an online version of the consolidated guide. Once we do have the latest soft law or visibility of that, we will be publishing that on our website too. What are the key performance safety indicators in a camo? That's a good question. To answer that, really, you've got to ask what does a camo do? So if you go back to the continuing airworthiness tasks, we manage the maintenance program, we manage reliability, we manage defects, we manage mandatory items, ADs. We manage defects. I think I already said that one. So we do all of these things within the camo. We manage the maintenance. We oversee the maintenance. We have contracts. So the safety performance indicators will be around how well are we doing those activities, and are there any activities within there that could cause one of the significant 7 outcomes on an aircraft. Another question here from Peter. Could I quickly go over the deadlines associated with the implementation and development of the SMS systems into part camo? Okay, yes, so the timelines. The hard law is already released. We must be compliant by February 2021. If you have your audit just prior to February 2021 and you've got findings, you've got until August 21 to close those findings. After August 21, if you're not compliant with part camo, and you should be, then that will be a matter for you and the regulator. Has SMS to be made part of your CAMI? Absolutely, Savvy, yes. So once you move to part camo, you will have to explain in your CAMI how you're complying with the part camo requirements, which includes the requirement to manage safety. You've also asked, can it be a standalone document? No, that will be part of your CAMI. So it'll be part of your approval, so it'll have to be contained within your CAMI. Here's another good question here from Marcel. How does the AOC Safety Management Manual relate to the implementation of SMS? Will this manual cover the camo? The manual itself won't cover the camo, but what you can do is you can integrate your management systems. And it's expected, to be honest, to integrate your management system. So if you've already got a safety management system operating as your operator, you can integrate that philosophy into your camo, but just with the subtle changes to what you are doing in the camo. So absolutely integrate, use what you've already got and learn from it. I've got time for just a couple more questions, I'm afraid, before we've got to close off. Will the MAA be taking on the same regulation uplifts? That's a fine question. Unfortunately, it's one I'm going to have to pass on. Usually with the MAA, they are following on from EASA, so I would expect they will in time, but I can't confirm that positively, I'm afraid. Okay, lots of questions coming in here. Is this why there are no Part M courses available with you after January? Will they become Part Camo courses? That's a fine question. No, we'll still carry on the Part M courses. I think that's an annual thing where the program hasn't been plugged into the website yet, so we're definitely running Part M courses through next year. But interesting, we are launching a new course which will be based on this webinar, which will look at how you implement Part Camo into your camo environment. We're looking at how you manage safety in a camo environment. So that'll be a one-day offering which will be available from February next year. Another question here from Declan. Thanks for the previous answer. That's no problem, Declan. If SMS is only required for aircraft operated by licensed air carriers, how should a non-airline camo refer to SMS in their camo? Read through very detailed. It is quite similar to the MA 201 requirements, where there's quite an array of responsibilities, and if you fall into this category, you are required. Fundamentally, if you're not operating or managing the airworthiness of complex motor-powered aircraft used by licensed air carriers for commercial air transport, you don't need to have a safety management system. However, what I will always say is, it's a good idea, isn't it? And if it's a good idea to do something, even if you're not required to do it, then why not do it anyway if it's going to improve safety? Whether you're general aviation, private aviation, or commercial aviation, safety's got to be the key anyway. So if there's a good standard out there to use, why not use it and follow it? Okay, that's all we've got time for now, I'm afraid. We will be sending out a link to this webinar with the questions. Questions and answers. We'll be sending it out to everybody that's been listening in, and to all those that were registered as well that didn't get a chance to get in. So we'll be sending that out on Monday. But for now, thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for your participation and answering the questions, and good luck.